Because Tsum Valley has only been open to tourism since 2008. Before this, it was totally isolated and remote and closed to any sort of tourism, let alone trekking. That's why this was an amazing experience. The guide that we had, his name is Saroj. From the very beginning, he gave us an amazing tour of Kathmandu, of all the stupas. He told us about the chortens, the stupas. Before all this, I had absolutely no clue, like really no clue. And he just made it all so interesting, and he's just totally motivated me to maybe to go to the Buddhist center here in Munich as well. And he was so knowledgeable, so motivating, and so full of heart and feeling, and so dedicated. I immediately connected with the other trekkers. They were amazing people, amazing, fun-loving, dedicated people. And it was just so easy to connect with them right from the start. We started the trek in Kathmandu, a 7-hour drive on a road, which is not really a road, more like a trail, to a small village called Arugat. That was the end of the road, Arugat. We got out and walked because the road, we couldn't get any further except by foot. So we walked the rest of the way into the village Arugat, which is the end of, that was the end of the end of everywhere, and set up camp. Already then I noticed that the people were just so amazing. The children would come out and they'd say, "Namaste, namaste." They were just big, bright smiles and very loving, open, friendly people. We hiked 5 days into the Tsum Valley. It was a 5-day trek, up and down, but it was absolutely beautiful. It was fluorescent green rice fields, bright fields of red amaranth and yellow mustard plants in bloom, yaks, cascading waterfalls, more waterfalls that you could imagine, cascading from elevations of thousands of meters, flowing into other waterfalls, huge waterfalls. The scenery and the landscape was like out of the film Avatar. It was like hiking through the film Avatar, only this was for real. This was real. We reached Tsum, and as soon as we turned the corner, the vegetation and the climate immediately changed from tropical vegetation to alpine, which was also just amazing. All of a sudden we were at a higher elevation, pine trees. The smell of pine was so intense against the backdrop of the snow-peaked Himalayan mountains. I did at one point have problems with the elevation because we reached an elevation of 4,300. And at this point I was starting to feel that, yes, it's getting hard to breathe, and so both Rinsen, Saroj were incredible support and help during this time, because it was a sort of like a panic situation at the beginning. And then Rinsen just said, "Hey, just look, we can see the sheep, we can see just relax and calm down, everything, it's normal." So we reached Tsum Valley, otherwise known as the Hidden Valley of Happiness, and the villages became smaller. The people became even more friendly, and they are mostly here of Tibetan origin. Instead of namaste, the children would say tashidale, tashidale, meaning wishing you happiness from the heart. It's a region very sacred where Buddhist saints have meditated in caves. Great lamas have retreats there, and the people are very, very nature-oriented, Buddhist, nonviolent. They respect nature and all living things. It's a Buddhist non-killing zone. By non-killing, I mean they don't slaughter animals for food or for religious purposes. We were also very lucky to have one of the guides who was from Tsum Valley. He arranged for us to be very, very graciously invited into his mother's home and also his sister's home for yak butter tea, which really isn't all that bad. It's better than it sounds. His name is Rinsen. He was our guide through the Tsum Valley, and we also volunteered at one of the schools that he went to, that he was actually a student at. So he, of course, set up lots of meetings with the school teachers and organized for the children to come. The first school that we taught at was at 3,200 meters in a very sacred area of the valley. A 12-day hike from any means of transportation except for donkeys. The children came running. They saw us and they came running, so excited and so happy, singing, and for their morning assembly they chanted their prayers and sang the national anthem with their heart. Watching the children saying their prayers with their hands like this in the beautiful mountains and the prayer flags all blowing in the wind, and then with their hands over their hearts singing the national anthem, it was just so fantastic. It just makes my heart want to melt, and absolutely at that point I knew that I had to come back. The next school that we volunteered at was a very sacred school, a very sacred part of the valley because it's close to the largest nunnery, close to the Milarepa cave, which is a very, very well-known Buddhist saint who meditated in this cave. So there were prayer flags all over the place, all over the grounds of the school, the trees. There were just full. It was full of prayer flags. The prayer flags blowing in the wind, and the bright colors, and the blue sky, and the snow-capped peaks behind it. And what I was very disappointed with, though, actually, was from the outside, the school buildings were beautiful. There was a brand new school building and an older one. The thing is that the brand new school building was an empty shell. There was nothing in it. It was like a facade. The older school building was a very large building, but there was actually only one room that the children could more or less use. There was a broken stone floor, the benches were broken, there was nothing to actually sit on. There was nothing on the walls, no posters, pictures, absolutely nothing. Lucky the weather was nice, so we could do our lessons outside. I love the method that I teach with, which is Gabi Holt's English for Kinder, and I've used this method in Nepal, which is just amazing. Gabi's teaching method motivated them even more. I used all the things that I've learned here teaching the children in the kindergartens in Germany. We played What is Missing? Abracadabra, abracadabra, red, red, red. And they all cried, red, with their hands up in the air, and they were just so full of life and so excited and so happy. The thing is that the children were so motivated through Gabi's method. They were so motivated to learn English, and they were just so full of love and joy. One of the schools, which was really fantastic, I thought, was because it was in the middle of their school holiday, Dasein, which is their version of Christmas in a way. So it's a very, very sacred religious school holiday. At one of the schools, there were 50 students who all came to school. Imagine that, on a holiday. Now, when would that happen here? Every time we left a school, they sang and danced for us with so much love and openness and thankfulness that we were up there helping them with their English.
Tsum la cha chip ya mumindu om mane pe me ho om mane pe me ho om mane pe me ho mane pe me ho tsum la cha chip ya mumindu.
Sometimes I get very euphoric when I talk about the children there because they're all so happy and open and namaste and friendly. but it's not as euphoric as it seems. Sometimes they have to walk up to an hour to get to school. When we were there, the weather was nice, but I don't know how they can do it during the monsoon season or in the winter when it's freezing cold. They don't have proper shoes. The clothes, their clothes don't fit. The buttons are broken, zippers are broken, they're ripped. They're definitely in need of clothing, school supplies, shoes. Medical care there is non-existent. In lots of villages, absolutely non-existent. We've met people who were in pain. They would walk for a day down into the valley, up the other side into the other village, because there was supposedly a medical camp, which didn't take place because the doctor didn't show up. Sometimes the teachers don't show up. The children can't go to school during harvest season because they have to help harvest. So they get out of the routine of going to school. It isn't really mandatory. Maybe it is mandatory, but no one really checks because the parents need them at home to help in the fields. It's their livelihood.